And we are live. Welcome, good people. Now, I haven't invited anyone to come on the stream. That's not really true. I have put out the open request that if someone wants to join, they're welcome. But, firstly, I want to do a little bit of talking about, how would I say this? The things that may be changing. Due to real life fluctuations, I'll no longer be streaming around this time. I'm not sure if I will stream next week. I mean, I may have a small lull, but when I do return, it'll probably be around 7, 8 o'clock. I'm thinking 8 o'clock, to be honest. I'll probably still do it on Wednesday, but I'll do it earlier because what with my current employment status and me looking for a new job, there is a reasonable chance that I won't have a job where I have to work till 11 o'clock in the evening. Why is there a reasonable chance for me not having that job? Well, it's simple. I'm not going to look for that kind of job anymore. So there is that. Now, truth be told, I don't have another job yet. I don't need another job today. Would be nice, don't get me wrong, but I have a little bit of income coming my way. And I'm already talking for different jobs I might be able to do. Chances are, though, that with those jobs I won't be working irregular hours as I was in the past. So the new jobs I'm looking at, I will have to start at office hours time. Now it can still be going on into late in the evening, but 11 o'clock not very likely. So it would be a little bit weird to then start streaming at 11:30. 8 o'clock will probably be my new time. Now this is true for the Wednesday stream. I'm not really sure whether it will be true for the Saturday stream, but there's a good chance it will be, let's be honest. So there is that. Other than that, I do hope that you guys like the rabbits. Because rabbits are a beautiful breed of animals, aren't they? They're so nice and lovely. I'm delusional. No, I'm not delusional. I'm optimistic, Michael. That's not the same. So many typos today, Modwayne. Yeah, I know. I have a new keyboard, and somehow the letters are slightly closer together, and then I assume it's that. Either that or my fine motor skills have gotten worse still, which is also a possibility, to be honest. I am going to talk a little bit about the corona hype at the moment. And I'm going to do that based on an article that has been sent to me by Johnny's List. I mean, Johnny has been in the chat in the past quite a few times. And yes, eating rabbits is useless. That is true. But you can cuddle them. You can hug them. There's so much love from those animals. It's amazing. Anyway, Johnny's List sent me a link, and that link is something I might talk to you about the whole corona yada yada blah 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 thing. Yes, he wants me sorry, John, I know you want me to say Central European, but most of the people here are Central European, so for them it's duh. Anyway, so yeah, I've got an article from Johnny List about the coronavirus, COVID-19. And I know I didn't want to do another stream about it, or topic about it, or video about it, because it really is grinding me down. And the main reason why I haven't made any new videos is because of that. I really had enough. Well, it's not the main reason, but it's an important part of the story. It's, I don't know. It's annoying to constantly repeat certain things because people won't believe it anyway. Anyway, so I have an article, Facts About COVID, and it is from what's the name of the company? The website. Sorry, it's from the how do you call it? Website. It's a Swiss website, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, swprs.org. A Swiss doctor on COVID-19. You know what? Maybe I should just show you this. It might be easier. Let's see. And there we go. Transition. There you go. There it is, good people of the interwebs. And hi there, Ludicrous. I did enjoy the last few vids, mate. They were funny. I really did. Didn't I? I think I responded to one of them at least. Can't remember. Flaunting your disinterest in your other listeners, in my humble opinion. Am I? That's okay. There's not much I can do about that. Swiss propaganda research. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Anyway, the link is on the top, and I will put it downstairs or in the text. But you might as well do it right away. Hoppa, hoppa. But I do want to talk about what these people have found. Oh, wrong button. I should do that one. There we go. Swiss propaganda research. Yeah. Why do I find this article so interesting? Because they actually do link to things. And yeah, it's annoying that we constantly have to repeat certain things. But there are a lot of lies going around. The thing with the whole COVID thing is that and people, when I talk about how I don't think it's a lot worse than the common flu, people start responding as if the common flu isn't that big a deal. But every year people die because of the common flu, even though they got vaccinated, and most of the society gets vaccinated, still lots of people die because of the common flu. So to pretend that the common flu isn't an issue, yeah, that's weird, because the common flu is an issue. And I'm not saying corona isn't an issue. I think the way we respond is weird. Let me see about this one, though. And yes, John, I understand you, mate. It's not my fault you live in another time zone. I mean, that's okay. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't stand still with all the time zone thingies, because it's not something I have to worry about. Nasty as I am, I agree, but still. It's not because I ignore you, it's just that certain things are not on the top of my mind. Anyway, if you want to join, let me know. If not, that's okay too. And I'm going to start with facts about COVID-19. Now, the article was first published in March 14th, but it sees regular updating, and obviously, as you can see, the last update was made today. The thing is, there are links in there, and I will click on them, and let's see how it goes. Fully referenced facts about COVID-19 provided by experts in the field to help our readers make a realistic risk assessment. Because, yeah, there is a risk. There are reasons to be careful. But we are being, how do you call it, forced to be scared. And that's... I mean, the storyline is constantly the same. People are dying, be afraid. Stay away from other people, be afraid. People are dying. Didn't you know people are dying? It's terrible because we don't have a cure and people are dying. Thing is, we don't really have a cure for the flu either. I mean, we have vaccines, but that's not a cure. And people are dying of the flu as well. And roughly at the same numbers. Well, maybe not. Maybe this one will be a bit worse than the normal flu. Now, this might be true, but don't compare it to the average flu seasons, because on the average flu seasons we have a vaccine that actually works. Compare it to flu seasons like the swine flu season of 2009, Why do I say that one? Because with that flu season, we didn't have a vaccine. And people didn't have any resistance to that one. So there is that. Anyway, point one, according to the data from the best studied countries such as South Korea, Iceland, Germany and Denmark, the overall lethality of COVID is lower per mile range. See, I tried to talk too fast. And thus up to 20 times lower than initially assumed. Now, as you can see, there are 4 links. I'm going to click on Iceland. Why not? And in Iceland, well, active infections and people who are recovered, numbers of infected people per date, numbers of tests per day, and suddenly we see that there are loads of people who are infected, but we don't know how far it was. Now maybe I should have looked at it first, because I remember having read a study that they did a test in Iceland, and in that test they noticed that 50 to 60% of the population tested already was infected, even though they never had any ill effects, asymptomatic infections. These people are normally not counted when they count the sick people, because the sick people are the ones that they actually know are sick. But yeah, okay, the sick people is but a fraction. Now, I'm trying to find the numbers real fast on this one, but obviously I can't. Confirmed infections, recovered, in isolation, yeah, that's 16,000 in quarantine out of 37,000 samples. So yeah, it's interesting at best. Okay, let me go to, oh, not that button. I was looking for something else. I mean, it's interesting data, don't get me wrong, but it didn't show me what I wanted to show you guys. This is all right. The link is downstairs. Obviously, you can take your time to look at it later yourself. Now, South Korea has tested more than 140,000 people and confirmed more than 6,000 cases. Its fatality is around 0.6%, which is slightly higher than the common flu, because the common flu seems to have a fatality rate of 0.1 to 0.5%. It's probably going to be lower than that, though. This suggests that, as many health experts have predicted, the virus fatality rate seems to decrease as more cases are reported. Because if we only hear about the worst cases, then obviously out of the worst cases X amount die, and the not worst cases aren't being counted, but the not worst cases should be counted. This is something that people have said right from the get-go. I mean, if we look at the counted websites on COVID, they talk about people who are infected, people who have died, and people who have recovered. But unfortunately, and I understand this, you can't really talk about people of whom you do not know are infected if you do not test. And indeed, Paolo, Iceland has already tested quite a large part of their population. I thought it was slightly more than 10%, but yeah, sure. And out of those tests, they have found that a large part of the population had already had the coronavirus, even though they were asymptomatic. They didn't become ill. Anyway, so yeah, this is the story about South Korea. South Korea also sees that there are lots of sick people that aren't that big of a problem. Now, I'm curious what they're going to talk about on Germany, but what I find especially funny is that Germany has nearly 5 times as many infected people as the Netherlands does, but they have roughly the same amount of people that died from the virus. And what's Germany doing different? Well, one of the things Germany is doing different is that they're not basically telling people to stay indoors. Well, you can, but you don't have to. San Marino has the highest death rate in the world, which accounts for 0.1% of the population. Thank you, Paolo Costa. There you go. I'm going to read a little bit, but it's in German, so I'm sorry if you can't do German. I'll try to translate what I'm reading. Ja. Erste Ergebnisse der Heinsberg-Studie machen Hoffnung. Basically, the first results of the Heinsberg study give ground to be hopeful. And hi there, Green Badger. Good relevant time of the day. Oh, by the way, you didn't hear it, Green Badger, but I said it at the beginning of the stream. I'm not sure if I'll go live next Wednesday, but in the future the time will be 8 o'clock, not 11:30. Central European. Sorry, John. They do, but on Bundesland level, some of them have total curfew, others don't. Yeah, no, that's true, because Germany is obviously a state-based country, just like the USA, funny enough. And some states are stricter in their rules than the other ones. Yeah, I'm not going to read all of this because my German to English might be slow. But yeah, basically what they're saying here is that they're seeing that the way that we've been told this whole sickness is developing isn't really what they are seeing when they test and measure, which is a good thing for the general people of, well, not just Germany, but the world. Because basically what they're saying is we've been duped. The World Health Organization hasn't been truthful to us. Now, I'm pretty sure all of us have already seen at least 1 or 2 videos on YouTube telling us how the World Health Organization lied. Then again, the mainstream media seems to stay away from that topic, so maybe you haven't, I don't know. Okay, point 2. A study in Nature Medicine comes to a similar conclusion even for the Chinese city of Wuhan. The initially significantly higher values of Wuhan were obtained because as many people with mild or no symptoms were simply not recorded. And yes, a lot of people died in Wuhan, but don't forget that if this is indeed such an incredibly infectious disease, Wuhan is a multiple million people city. Now, I'm not really sure how many people live in Wuhan. I mean, I can remember reading somewhere it's up to several million, but I'm not sure how many several million that is. I could really check it, go fast and check it. I know, maybe I should, but if we look at the amount of people that died, yeah, that's not that much. Ah, here is the number. There is about 6 million people that live in the city of Wuhan, but the area around it in total has 10 million people. Now, the Wuhan city is basically a 3-parter. The city is out of 3 parts: Wuchang, Hanyang, and Hankou. And all of those together is about 6.5 million. They had, 80,000 deaths? Yeah, that's an awful lot. Don't get me wrong, it is. But maybe not as bad as people have thought, considering that maybe more than just about 80,000 people got infected, because that's, for the longest time, the storyline from China. Now, 50 to 80 of test positive individuals remain symptom free, even among the 70 and 79 years old. About 60% of them remain symptom free, 0.3. And maybe I should do this. What I find most interesting is that yesterday I read an article talking about how a woman, I think it was, obviously it was a woman, because it seems that men are more likely to die from this disease than women. Anyway, there was a 109-year-old woman who apparently survived this crisis. Now I know this is not actually fact. I mean, it's an anecdote at best, but it's interesting. You'd think that people being old are more likely to die, and then we have a very old woman who didn't die, which is good. X-Files, the man with the dark voice. The truth is best hidden between two lies. Well, it seems that way, yeah. The population of Ireland is about 6 million. Yeah, but you're not close to 80,000 deaths in Ireland, Ludicrous. I'm pretty sure of that. And the Who didn't lie, they just didn't tell the truth. Yes, I assume that that's what Michael Keller is responding to. I'm sorry, but they actually did lie, because the Who put out a message right at the beginning of this all that the disease, as bad as it was, wasn't transmittable between humans. I think the tweet is still out there. I think I've linked that tweet in one of my videos in the past. The last time I checked, the tweet was still there. I'm not going to do it now, though, unfortunately. But yeah, 50 to 80% of the test positive individual remains symptom free, kind of like the flu. Yeah, but that's true. It's not a certainty. It is just a possibility, John. You're correct. Now, the median age in the people who have died in most countries, including Italy, is over 80 years old. That's the median age. And only about 1% of the deceased had no serious previous illnesses. The age and risk profile of death thus essentially corresponds to normal mortality rates. Now this is annoying a little bit, because in all fairness, I'm one of the risk factors. I have a lung disease, I have an immunodisease, so yeah, just like with the flu, I'm at extra risk. But is there a chance of me surviving? Well, hell yes there is, just like me surviving the flu is quite common. And even at the terrible numbers that they pushed us at the beginning, oh no, 2% will die, 2.5% will die. Yeah, that's not true. But even with the numbers we have now, 0.5%, yeah, sure, that's bad. But there's a huge chance that we will all survive. Well, not all. Some people will die. I'm not trying to downplay people dying from it, by the way, when I say this is just as bad as the flu. I'm not pretending that this isn't bad. Because even in a small country like the Netherlands, 8,000 people a year die just because of the flu. So yeah, the flu is also a pretty deadly disease, let's be honest. It's blatant obvious the Who lied. First news about the virus in November. Out of control, December. China informs Who, December, January, Who not transmittable. Yeah, no, I mean, the Who lied. I mean, it's not that they were misinformed, they bloody well knew. And then when Taiwan came out having several answers, the World Health Organization actively tried to prevent those noises going over the world. The Who is proving that they have very little trust to be given to them. And hi there, Renovatio. Well, we're going to slightly further on. Many media reports of young and healthy people dying from COVID-19 have proven to be false upon closer inspection. Many of these people either did not die from COVID, or they in fact had serious preconditions such as undiagnosed leukemia. And this is especially true for one of the cases in America. I'm not sure if this will go to it, so I'll tell it first. But one of the first women in America to have died from this was a woman who was on remission from cancer treatment. And she had cancer, she was going through chemo, and anyone who knows anyone in their survival, in their social circle that went through chemo knows that even a common cold will be deadly to them. So did she die because she had COVID, or maybe did she die because she was super weak to begin with? And I'm not talking about the personality, I'm talking about the body, because chemotherapy is rather invasive, let's be honest. Now, these are the links. This is one of the links. Spanish football coach Francesco Garcia dies of corona, age 21. Okay, so how did he die? Well, he died of corona. He passed away at 21 after contracting the coronavirus. Garcia, blah, 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 blah. He died on Sunday after testing positive, having been sent to the regional hospital. Okay, so how did he die? Oh, right, he was suffering from leukemia. Leukemia, by the way, is a very deadly form of cancer. So, yeah, did he die from the coronavirus? May the coronavirus be an influence in his death? Yeah, probably. It's very likely that the coronavirus indeed was part of his death. But I'm sorry, if you have leukemia, I'm pretty sure the leukemia will have a bigger impact on your health than the coronavirus. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'll admit. Okay, normal overall mortality in the US is about 8,000 people per day. In Germany, about 2,500, and in Italy, about 1,500, nearly 2,000. Influenza mortality in the US is up to 80,000. Now, it's more around 65,000, but yeah, it can be up to 80,000. And in Germany and Italy, it's kind of there as well. I'm not sure about the Swiss number, but yeah, I'm willing to believe that in Switzerland, it's roughly about 1,500. So, when people say this is just as bad or not worse than a flu, people aren't saying this isn't bad. And this is what a lot of people seem to hear when people say, oh, well, COVID isn't worse than the common flu. But the common flu is pretty bad too. People die from the common flu every single year. And don't forget, these people die even though they have been vaccinated and the people around them have been vaccinated. So to say that this COVID thing will be slightly worse or even twice as bad or even 3 times as bad as the common flu, yeah, I'm sorry, but that doesn't really prove anything, because people dying from the flu die so even after they have been vaccinated, where we have zero defense against this COVID thing. Again, if we want to compare it to flus like H1N1 when it came around the first time in 2009, when people didn't have any resistance against it either. And yes, we saw a lot of flu deaths in that year. Strongly increased death rate, as in northern Italy, can be influenced by additional risk factors such as very high air pollution and microbial contaminants, as well as the collapse of the care of elderly and sick due to mass panics and lockdown measures. Now, this is something that we also see in other places in the world. The lockdown has its own problem. Now, the air pollution one, I think it was in 2006 when the World Health Organization, look, this is northern Italy. This is pretty bad. Obviously, this is also in German because, yeah, I'm sorry. But in 2006, maybe I can find it real fast in the text. No, I can't. But in 2006, the World Health Organization had already warned Italy about its dreadful air quality, and they've estimated that 8,000 people a year would die because of it. Italienische Wissenschaftler wollen einen Zusammenhang zwischen hoher Feinstaubbelastung und der schnellen Verbreitung des Corona-Covid-19 in der Po-Ebene entdeckt haben. I'm probably doing that wrong, but then again, my German isn't perfect. But it seems that Italian scientists seem to have discovered that the fine dust problem they're having in certain parts of Italy may have increased the speed of the corona infections. Anyway, links are obviously in the article that I linked, so you can check them out yourself if you want to. And maybe you should. Microbial contamination. You know what? I'm not going to do all the links. Never mind. In countries such as Italy and Spain, and to some extent Great Britain and the US, a serious overload of hospitals, notably by the flu, is not unusual. And if we look at a place like the Netherlands has a huge problem with ICU beds. Why? Because in the last years they've been constantly phasing them out. Why doesn't Germany have this problem? Because Germany always had a large number of ICU beds, even if they didn't use them. Because the German politicians always decided that, you know what, if we need them, we need them, therefore we should keep them because there's a chance we might need them. Whereas in Italy, Spain, Great Britain and the Netherlands, but apparently also in the United States, a lot of a lot of hospitals seem to have scrapped their ICU beds to save costs. By the way, this is why in Germany healthcare is slightly more expensive than, for example, in the Netherlands, because you're paying for more ICU beds. The problem is not so much that these beds are all suddenly taken because of COVID, because they would have been taken if it would be a normal flu as well. But slightly less so because we can vaccinate people against the normal flu. But then again, during the first time H1N1 went around, vaccinations didn't exist. Hi there, William Carlson. Welcome, mate. Long time no see. It's not true. Anyway, I already said this to everyone else, but I'm going to say it to you as well. I'm not sure if next week I will go live, but if in the future the new stream time will be around 8 o'clock in the evening Central European. John, I said Central European this time. Did I earn a cookie? Anyway, an important distinction concerns the question of whether people die with or from coronaviruses. Autopsies show that in many cases the previous illnesses were an important or decisive factor, but the official figures do not always reflect this. And in America, I forgot her name, it's a female politician. She's not a politician, by the way. She's in the Corona Task Force. There's a woman who basically said at the White House that in the United States, if you die with the coronavirus in your system, you will be counted as a corona death. I did say the time, 8 o'clock. How did I not say the time? And later I said Central European. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of people who are being counted as death due to corona, where they may indeed have other causes. This is in itself not so much a big deal, rather than it shows that we are being pushed to be scared. Debbie Burks, you know what? I can, because I think I have it still open. Where is it? Yeah, Debbie Burks, you are completely correct, sir. Dr. Burks, unlike some countries, if someone dies with COVID-19, you are counted as a COVID death, whether you died from it or not. Maybe I put that link in the thingy too. Hoppa, boom, boom, boom. So yeah, if you want to check it out, the link will be provided in the text down below. Anyway, so yeah, it's weird that we talk about people dying from COVID when they are not really dying from COVID. No, it's my laptop that's making that noise again. I don't know why the ventilator of my processor kicks in ever so often and it makes a hell of a noise. New computer is incoming, and once the new computer is here, I'll see that this one gets looked after as well. But yeah, it's quite annoying. I totally agree with you, Michael. They discussed this on Honey Badger Radio last night. In Italy, they both count as COVID death cases that are not. In Italy, They both count as COVID deaths cases that are not, but they also don't count as COVID deaths some cases that are. It goes both ways. Well, that may be true, but what I've found so far is that it clearly goes in one way a lot faster than in the other way. So there is that. I haven't checked Italy that much. I do know, for example, that in Poland it's very difficult to be counted as a COVID death. But then again, in Poland it's also very difficult to be counted as a flu death because, hey, you have COVID, you die of pneumonia. Yeah, it's maybe a side effect of COVID, but it's pneumonia, so you die of pneumonia. Done. So yeah, there are countries that are not going into the madness, but there are countries that definitely go into the madness. Now, point 10. Thus, in order... Oh, come on. Bloody hell. Thus, in order to assess the danger of the disease, the key indicator is not the often mentioned number of test-positive persons and deceased, but the numbers of persons who actually and unexpectedly, bloody hell, developed or die of pneumonia. Because that's basically the killer of it all. Now, people are saying that there are more damages done to the body because of corona, because it seems to damage the lung itself. Though there are doctors who are claiming that, yeah, the damage done by the coronavirus to the lungs isn't because of the coronavirus itself, but it's because people are being put on ventilators, and the combination coronavirus and ventilators apparently is a really bad one. That's interesting to go into. I don't know if they mention it in this article, and maybe I should make a video about that one soon-ish. If you have to do practical work, you go out and work. If you can work at home, you work at home. And children's school is open because so the parents are going to be able to work. Are we talking about Sweden now, William? Because funny enough, Sweden is one of the countries that doesn't social isolate. They do let people go out, and on average, Sweden doesn't score better or worse than other countries in Europe, whether they are on lockdown or not. So yeah, you can question the fact whether the lockdown thing is indeed a good thing. Personally, I doubt it, but there is that. Okay, the often shown exponential curves of the corona cases are misleading, since the numbers of tests also increase exponentially. In most countries, the ratio of positive tests to total tests either remains constant between 5 and 25 or increase rather slowly, which is weird considering that these countries do a lot more testing. But people that are tested but aren't going to the doctor or are asymptomatic are often not counted. Now, why are these people not counted even though we know they have corona in their bloody? Because they are not counted, because it goes counter the fear-mongering. 2% of corona victims die. Yeah, well, wait a second. Half of people who are infected with corona aren't even counted. Even if we know that they have corona. But they don't have any symptoms, they're asymptomatic. Forget about them. Sweden was already a very socially distant country, so yeah, there is that. That probably has something to do with it. But there's a difference between socially distant and lockdown. Now, it's true that Sweden has many places where you are further away from each other, but Sweden does have a few big cities as well. And even in those big cities, life goes on. I think this is the point that we're making. Countries without lockdowns and contact bans, such as Japan, South Korea and Sweden, have not experienced a more negative course of events than other countries. Now, it is true that if we look at Sweden, Japan and South Korea, people are distancing themselves a little bit. In Japan and South Korea, it's quite normal to wear mouthpieces. No, how do you call those things? Those masks. And those masks aren't really meant to protect you. It's preventing other people from getting sick if you are sick already. because then your sickness stays within your mask, so to speak. But they're not really isolating. And yes, William, Stockholm is one of the biggest cities, so it's possible to be a big city and still be open. According to lung specialists, invasive ventilation of COVID patients is often counterproductive and causes additional damage to the lungs. Oh, I mentioned that a moment ago. The invasive ventilation of COVID-19 patients is partly done out of fear of spreading through aerosols. Basically, they're afraid that they might spread the disease, but using the beatming, the ventilators, beatmung, forced breathing, is actually more dangerous. In Italian moesten bisher, wait a second, maybe I should do it like this. Maybe I should read it first and then translate it. Here we go. Nah, I should just read it. Then Michael can contradict me when I do it wrong. In Italië moesten bisher fast 10% der positief auf SARS-CoV-2 getesteten Patienten auf intensiven Stationen aufgenommen und maschinell beatmet werden. In Straßburg ist die Lage laut eines Berichtes des Deutschen Institut für Katastrophenmedizin. So in Italy, about 10% of the people that were tested with COVID-19, well, SARS-CoV-2, were put on ventilators and were being breathed with machines. Shall I come in and do the translation? Michael, if you want to, mate, you are obviously more than welcome. It might be easier as well. Let me see if I can set that up, because then I have to do this first, and I have to do where are you, bloody stupid window? There you are. There's that. See, maybe it's a good idea to make Michael, our German-speaking Swiss person, do the translation. Oh, for fuck's sake, that's not the link I wanted to. Well, maybe I should. Come on. Go away, bloody link. I'm sorry, people. I should have organized this better, I know. So, first I'm going to link this one to Mr. Michael. That's one. And this is two. There you go. Michael, I dropped it on Discord. I sent you a private message. I linked the article so that you can open it yourself, so we don't have to do it over the Hangout window. But if you want to, we can do it over the Hangout window. Well, Boris survived his COVID treatment. Yes, he did. And he had to thank all of them, especially the foreign nurses. So he did a good job. Make Michael do the translation. Sounds a tad... I'm not making him do the translation. He offered to do the translation. How is that authoritarian? Oi, 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 oi. Spreading to arseholes. No, aerosols, basically breathing. So yeah, that's there is that. Shall I put it back on this article until... No, I'm just going to continue a little bit. As de Tagesspiegel berichtet, werden dort Patienten über 80 Jahre nicht mehr beatmet, weil schlicht die Beatmungsplätze fehlen. Right. Ah, well, there's Michael.
Hello.
Hey, Michael.
Sorry, a little audio issue.
A little what?
Audio issue.
Oh, a little audio issue. No problems. I can hear you well. Was I too loud for you?
Not you, but the echo from the stream.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to share screen with you so that you can see, because I gave you the article, but yeah, that's a little bit.
Yeah, and just mark the article, the part of the article you want me to translate.
Oh, bloody hell! Thank God it's.
Oh, What's wrong here?
Yeah, that's Hangout. Hangout doesn't like it when I share certain things. I don't know why that is. And then this is how it acts. And I can't really stop it from doing that. So yeah, I'm going to have to stop sharing, mate. You have to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll let you. There you
Which point have you been so I can get the article?
go. I'm now at... Oh, now I forgot. Where am I? I think it was point 10.
Is it better, John? 10 doesn't have an
No,
article? Or?
That's true. In countries such as Italy, Spain, Great Britain, blah blah blah. Thus, in plus 10, 11, shown misleading. Nope. Sweden, nope. Point 13. And then the first link. So the link on counterproductive brings you to COVID-Beatmung.
Yes, there I am.
I was going, I did the first part, so I was doing the second part. So wie der Tagesspiegel berichtet, werden dort Patienten über 80 Jahre nicht mehr beatmet, weil schlicht die Beatmungsplätze fehlen.
As the Tagesspiegel reports, patients over 80 are no longer ventilated because they simply lack the ventilators. In Germany, most of the hospitals prepare for similar scenarios. So, excuse me. It's COVID, yeah. Sorry, one moment.
Oh no, he's dying.
There I am.
Oh, he's back, never mind.
I'm not dying. I don't have that much luck. So the numbers of the ventilators shall be increased. On ventilating, much of the hopes are relying on. But is the therapeutical Bilanz? Forgot the word. Results. Yeah, results as good as the. Wait, no, I lost the.
Auf die Beatmung ruhen zurzeit
so
viele
gut wie Ruf.
Hoffnungen, aber
As its reputation, I'm sorry.
Ja. And then the next bit, bei schwereren Verlaufen einer SARS-CoV-2-Infektion entwickeln Patienten oft eine interstitielle Pneumonie. So basically, by getting forced to breathe with a ventilator, you are developing pneumonia. That's right? That's what it says.
I'm sorry, I had a cough attack. Fitting to the topic, yes, you translated correctly. I'm back in a minute.
So, with new infections wird immer mehr Lungengewebe involviert, was zu einer zunehmenden Dyspnoe führt. Fällt die Sauerstoffsättigung im Blut zu weit ab, muss beatmet werden. So yeah, you shouldn't automatically start breathing people up, but yeah, if the oxygen in the blood comes too low, then yeah, sure, you must be linked to the machine. Is that so far a decent translation?
It is. It is, yeah.
This is so...
Oh, damn it.
I'm so sorry, mate, but it is funny. That's not funny for you, don't get me wrong, but I hope you understand why. So yeah, I mean, being put on a ventilator may actually be a negative thing, because it might cause you to get pneumonia. And people die because of the pneumonia part. So yeah, there is that. Are you still alright, mate?
Still alive.
Still alive. I'm really feeling sorry for you. What, did you drink something and then swallow it wrong?
Yeah, that too. The cough attack was the reason for swallowing the drink.
Ooh, that's...
yeah. Fitting to the topic, I guess.
Hey, listen, it's not only COVID season, it's also hay fever season. I
Yes, I
have
know.
hay fever. It's really funny to go out into the street and then have to sneeze. Oh, to see that people react to that. It's
Oh, they are pretty fast if you do that.
oh yeah. Anyway, contrary to the original assumptions, however, the World Health Organization determined at the end of March that there is no evidence for aerosol dispersal of the virus. A leading German virologist also found no aerosol and no smear infection in pilot studies, which makes you wonder, how does this disease then spread, if not through the air and if not by smear infection? I believe that this is true, though. I believe that people found that it's not as infectious through aerosol as they thought. But yeah, it kind of begs the question. And I'm sorry, guys, I need a fast bio break because, yeah, my health is as it is. I'll be right back. Michael, if you want to continue, we are at point 15. I'll scroll it up a little bit. And I'll be right back, so you can take it over. Or you can wait till I get back, and then I'll start with point 15 again.
Okay. So, to his question how the virus shall have been transmitted, it was blatant obviously that people didn't sneeze at each other in China. There's just not as many sneezes in the world to cause this. But yeah. Point 15. Many clinics in Europe and the US have been lacking patients, and some have had to introduce short-time work. Numerous operations and therapies were cancelled by clinics. Even emergency patients sometimes stay at home out of fear of the virus. Very true. Knowing this article, I know that they didn't link to the Swiss situation where general practitioners had to close their offices, their nurses being unemployed by now, and operations being cancelled, and all the hospitals essentially being empty. So empty that they took in Italian and French patients who were on ventilators because the French and Italian hospitals were crowded, so to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Modwin Elron, your host of the show today.
And I'm back. Sorry, what happened?
I read point 15 and mentioned the situation we had in Switzerland with the hospitals taking in French and Italian patients because they were essentially empty. Well, the hospitals, I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because the Netherlands, at the beginning of the whole corona crisis, were talking to Germany because Germany has a lot of beds as well. But in the end, Germany wasn't happy about it, but they would agree to it. But in the end, it wasn't really necessary because somehow the hospital beds didn't get filled. Mugwayne? That's not nice, Ludicrous. Not nice. Anyway.
He could have called you Mogwai. Don't feed after midnight.
No, that's also not nice.
But funny.
People. Well, yeah, maybe. But still, not nice. But yeah, no, I mean, numerous operations and therapies were cancelled by clinics. Even emergency patients sometimes stay at home. And the funny thing is that some of these emergency patients are, well, it's the word emergency. So I don't really have to clarify it, right? And I wonder if they die, if they still count as a COVID death. Because, let's be honest, if they need emergency operations and they're not getting them right now, they die because of the whole COVID situation. Though they might not have COVID. There is that. Anyway, point 16. You want to do the next one or should I take it over again?
Oh, just read. I'll step in to translate.
Okay. Several media have been caught trying to dramatize the situation in clinics, sometimes even with manipulative pictures and videos. In general, many media outlets do not question, even doubtful statements and figures. Now let's see what the links do. Do not question. Okay, here we go. Following the link. Okay, it links to a page of itself. I'm not going to bother with that one. Had it linked to something outside, then yeah, sure. But yeah. New York Post. CBS admits to using footage from Italy about report about New York City. Would you like to reactivate? No, I don't. CBS News has admitted to that alarming footage of an overflowing ward used during a report on the coronavirus crisis in the Big Apple hospitals was actually from Italy. Funny enough, the last thing I heard about America is that their hospitals aren't full. Then again, I mean, they did build a few extra and they have a hospital ship there and all that, but they're not full. Don't get me wrong, I'm not disputing that the ones in Italy aren't, because I think the ones in Italy are. But yeah, Italy is one of the few countries where they actually did have an overflow of people needing to be helped. I told you these outlets were not to be trusted. It's not about trust. It's just that it's kind of like saying, oh well, experts say, and who are those experts? Well, me. But they do have lots of links that do not go inside, so I do still think this is a good paper, even though I might not always agree blindly. Anyway, the virus test kits used internationally are prone to errors. Several studies have shown that even normal coronaviruses can give you a false positive result. Moreover, the virus tests currently in use has not been clinically validated due to time pressures. And in all fairness, the common cold is a coronavirus. So it's quite an issue if the common cold sets off your wooga wooga big scary monster bug alarm. Let me see. No, I'm not going to check up one of these. Well, okay, prone to errors. Sure, why not? Prone to errors. NCBI NLM. Okay. Stability issues of RT-PCR testing of SARS-CoV-2 for hospitalized patients clinically diagnosed with COVID-19. Okay, this is the abstract. I'm not going to try and get the whole thing then. In this study, we collected a total of 610 hospitalized patients from Wuhan between February and February 17. We reported a potentially high false negative rate of real-time reverse transcriptase polymer chain reactions, R2-PCR, in testing for SARS-CoV-2 in the 610 hospitalized patients. So they already know that they have COVID, and then they test them, and the tests show something else. And yes, John, the common cold is so common. I don't know why. Starship Troopers movie, only a dead bug is a good bug. Different kind of bugs, I think. Anyway, I need to blow my nose. These results suggested the urgent needs for the standard of procedures of sampling from different anatomic sites, sample transportations, optimizations of R2-PCR, serology, diagnosis and screening for SARS-CoV-2, infection, and distinct diagnosis from other respiratory diseases such as influenza infections as well. With other words, test no good. Which is, I thought they've had good tests now, but I'm not sure. Apparently, they didn't in February, let's put it like that.
Well, I think in end of March, a blood test has been made public that has a more reliable results history than the other one.
Yeah, I thought I'd read about that one as well. And in America, they have a test where you can administer one It's a machine, and you can test every 15 minutes. You can test someone, or rather, one test takes about 15 minutes.
It's a similar procedure than the university in Zurich has developed, I think.
That's possible. Though the one that I'm talking about isn't a blood test, it's a saliva test. But you can take saliva out of your mouth. You don't have to go invasive like some of the nose swab tests, because then you have to go to the back of the nose, which is rather painful. Anyway, so yeah, there are plenty of tests going out there, and it's kind of funny since America has basically asked the companies in the country to be of assistance. Shit is going really fast there. They are producing really fast. They're actually exporting ventilators, they're exporting masks, they're exporting tests, where in Europe countries are basically stabbing one in the back because Germany bought some masks in France, and France is like, yeah, no, you're not getting them. Stuff like that. It's amazing.
Switzerland, not Germany.
No, okay, Switzerland. Okay. Well, Switzerland.
Germany doesn't get the delivery they ordered in China because the French blocked the flights to Germany, and the Americans actually blocked the French planes that wanted to leave. So now the German order has gone to the United States.
Oh, the beauty of idiocy. Anyway, let's go to point 18. Numerous international renowned experts from the fields of virology, immunology, and epidemiology consider the measures taken to be counterproductive and recommend a rapid natural immunization of the general populations while protecting the risk groups. Because the flattening the curve thing is simply not true. I mean, yeah, sure, keep people that are at high risk, keep them out of the system, sure. But the average person isn't at high risk. So flattening the curve for people who are not at high risk is well, basically we're destroying our economies because we are scared.
Yeah, and as soon the restart of the economy comes, people are going to work and get the virus anyway because they are not immune of it. So
yeah, so we're going to
be postponed.
Yeah, we're basically postponing the problem. Had we now sent everyone out to work except for old people and people in risk groups, then we could have protected those two groups. The average person could have gotten their system immune or less susceptible to the disease, and with that we could start herd immunity, and with herd immunity we are protecting the ones that can't be immunized at this point in time. But yeah, now we're just putting everyone at home, so the natural process isn't taking place, and then when the doors go open and people are allowed to go outside again, if the virus is still in the country, guess what? Anywho, the number of people suffering from unemployment. Oh, this is an important one. The number of people suffering from unemployment, psychological problems, and domestic violence as a result of the measures taken has exploded in the US and worldwide. Several experts believe that the measures may claim more lives than the virus itself. And in certain states in America, we already know that there have been more suicides than COVID deaths.
And from domestic violence, the results of police forces and the hotlines show another result than the feminists are claiming.
Yeah, well, that is also true, because feminists are kind of misrepresenting this one. Who'd have thought? They're always so truthful normally. But we do see a slight uptake in domestic violence. It's just not the way that it's being portrayed.
Yeah, it's the men who are calling.
Yeah.
Women getting annoyed that the man sits at home in front of the PC and making phone calls all the time instead of taking care of them.
Yeah.
Which is called home office.
And then, yeah, they can't do anything else. But in all fairness, the biggest problem is anxiety and suicide. Because those two have seen a sharp increase. And funny enough, anxiety and domestic violence go hand in hand, because the more anxiety in a system, the more likely there is to be violence. And the more violence is in a system, the more likely there is suicide. So yeah, these things all are, how do you call it, linked in with one another. Anyway, they all probably have a link in this one as well. What are they linking to? Come on, there you go. US Weekly. There, you're not going. Oh, fuck you. I don't care. The computer is going to be emptied next week anyway. US Weekly jobless claims blow past 6 million as coronavirus lockdown spread. This is kind of funny though, because it's completely off topic, but I heard Democrats talking, because for the longest time, one of the positive points, one of the positive points Trump was so proud of was that America had the lowest unemployment numbers since it's starting to calculate those unemployment numbers. And now Democrats are like, ha, Trump doesn't have the lowest unemployment numbers, because if we average it all out, then it's still pretty high, because at this point in time they have like 6 million people unemployed. And estimates are that next month it could be up to 25 million people. Because obviously this whole COVID thing is Trump's fault. But yeah, people losing their job is a terrible thing, because especially if you don't have any other secure ways of income, it will increase anxiety, it will increase stress, and it might increase the possibility of suicide. The NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden had warned that the corona crisis is used for the massive and permanent expansion of global surveillance. The renowned virologist Pablo Goldschmidt spoke of a global media terror and totalitarian measures. Leading British virologist Professor John Oxford spoke of a media epidemic. And we know of this because in the Netherlands they're also talking about there's this app. Google and Apple are actually working together on an app where you can keep in contact with the people around you, whether they want you to or not. And then they can see whether you've been close to someone who has had COVID or knows someone who has COVID, and that person has been close to someone else that has COVID as well. I'm sorry, but basically you're being tracked. This is what people always have been worried about. That was possible to do with mobile phones, but so far it was never done. And now they're talking about, and they're openly talking about it. In the Netherlands, they were actually talking about whether people should be made mandatory to upload that app and use it.
Well, it's no longer a debate because Google and Apple decided that it's also no longer an opt-in solution, meaning you can't choose to install this app. It will be installed and you can choose to not use it. It has also been decided that every grocery store has to report to have a system that gets the tracking of your cell phone loaded into that, and you're only being allowed to go in there if you are free of contacts. And also the health departments of several European countries already claimed the data to ensure to not spread the virus. So I suggest to deactivate auto updates in every phone if you can do so.
And maybe it's time to say, you know what, when I was young I didn't have a phone with me 24/7. Maybe I should stop having a phone with me 24/7. See, it's kind of funny how many authoritarian and totalitarian things are happening in the Western world at this point in time because of a sickness that may or may not be worse than the common flu. And I know people hear me say common flu and then say, oh, the flu isn't bad. No, I'm not saying the flu isn't bad. But I'm not seeing COVID being worse as the flu. It's it's annoying because when you say that, people say, "Why are you not taking COVID serious?" And I'm like, "No, I take COVID serious. That's not the point. It's more like most people don't take the flu serious." Because if you tell people, even in the Netherlands, 8,000 people a year die because of the flu. And for most people in the Netherlands, that's news. In Switzerland, apparently 1,500 people die of the flu. Did you know that, Michael?
Oh, I forgot to unmute. Yes, I know that.
See, it's not a no. It's not an issue, a no issue disease. People die from the flu continuously. You need the government for protection. You're too stupid to know this. Yes, I remember a party being rather big on that. They were called the Bolshevik. And Lenin was rather adamant that what they did for the betterment of society. And it's only because it's good for people. Government knows best. Oh, 1984, isn't it? War is peace, ignorance is wisdom. Anyway. Now, below you will find regular updates. So I'm going to go a little bit through them, but I'm not going to do them all because it's a rather long list. But I'm going to take the medical updates ones. The British Telegraph, Professor Alexander Kekule, one of Germany's leading microbiologists and epidemiologists, calls for an end to the lockdown as it causes more damage than the virus itself. In people under 50 years of age, severe disease or death are very, very unlikely. The general population should develop rapid immunity, while risk groups should be protected. One cannot wait for a vaccine, which will take at least 6 to 12 months, but must find a way to live with the virus. And the funny thing is, the common cold is also a coronavirus. Do you know what treatment we have to the common cold? I'll give you a few seconds to think.
Extermination?
No. Sneeze, cough, and chicken broth. Or chicken soup. That's it. We don't have any treatment against the common cold. The German Network for Evidence-Based Medicine reports that the lethality of several seasonal influenzas, flus, such as in 2017-2018, is estimated by German Koch Institute, which is, I think it's their major job is studying of viruses and such, is around 0.4% to 0.5 and not only 0.1 as is often being said. This would mean that the lethality of COVID-19 could be even lower than that of a strong seasonal flu. Though at this point in time they're saying that COVID-19 would probably be around 0.6, and the Robert Koch says a strong flu is 0.5. And the funny thing is that a strong flu people are still vaccinated against. So yeah, what would happen if COVID indeed would have vaccinations as well? Do I want to? Yeah, let's go to the link. Gives you something to do. Oh no, it's in English. COVID-19. Where is the evidence? Nah, fuck it.
There's actually a new article, also from the Robert Koch Institute. I've linked it in the Discord server. They are now talking about the 0.3%. And they also mentioned that the lockdown and curfew and social isolation didn't do as well as expected.
I don't see it in Discord. Where is it? You sure you posted in Discord?
Yeah, it's the German translation. I posted at 10 to 3.
Okay, I'm going back up.
In the server, not as PN.
Yeah. Okay, let me see.
It's
Which
a German
one?
article I have there from the
Arca RKE Deutschland or the Heise.de?
Both the same article. The RKI is linking to the main article, and Heise is the
Okay.
reporting one.
I will let you do the honors then. If I'm showing the RKI.
Oh damn! It's the medical
Satsung der
term one.
Oh, you want me to do the other one?
Would be easier for me, I guess.
Let's do the other one then.
It's a study. It's a study.
Okay,
we would have to
so
find the facts first.
Heise Online. Neue RKI-Corona-Fallstudie Einfluss der Kontaktsperre eher maßig. Go ahead.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, I was just
That's
reading
the
the
new
headline.
Robert Koch Institute Corona case study. The social isolation and curfew don't have as much impact as expected. Then to repeat the first sentence with other words. Down in the text, in the preview of the epidemiologic bulletin number 17, estimate of the development of the cured SARS-CoV, the blah blah yada yada epidemic in Germany, now casting from April 9th, scientists of Robert Koch Institute and political activists, they have that too, published an aid for the question how the actual case situation from statistical point of view, and I can't speak anymore, and different measures from 9th, 16th, and 23rd of March could have developed. And yeah, the sentence is difficult, even in German. The numbers were more... Can't believe that. Sorry, I have to keep composure. Sorry.
When you confusing. Verwirrend, confusing.
Yeah, it is confusing, and the whole paragraph itself is confusing too.
I'm sorry, mates. I'm sorry. I can understand.
You didn't write it.
I can understand. And I did put you on the spot, so... Well, you did offer to be on the spot. But I can understand that. So, yeah.
Okay, let's go to the essential part. Let me find it. There we are. The preview of the study has shown that the social isolation from 23rd March had as good as none positive outcome of the case studies at all.
Where are you, so I can show people?
It's was bringen die Ausgangsbeschränkungen? Vorabversion der Studie zeigte so beispielsweise, dass die Kontaktsparmaßnahme, Sperrmaßnahme, not Sparmaßnahme, they're not saving.
This one.
Yeah.
Dass die Kontaktsperrmaßnahme vom 23. März offenbar so gut wie gar keine Auswirkung auf den Verlauf der Fallzahlen gehabt hat. So,
meaning social isolation and curfew have been completely useless.
Which a lot of people are saying anyway. So
yeah.
That.
Look at Sweden. They walk around.
Yeah, Sweden.
They have similar numbers.
Yep.
They have the same percentage of increase of infected and fatalities than the rest of the world. The rest of the world is in curfew and lockdown. Sweden walk around. So what should we learn from this, I guess?
And no renovatio, not Robert Koch Institute.
Robert, like Robert.
And Koch.
But Robert Koch Institute kind of fits the political narrative, I guess.
Would that be a feminist institute?
Well, as read in the first paragraph, they have political responsibles. So they have the polit officers.
Ja.
Oh, yeah.
Auch das Max-Planck-Institut für Dynamik und Selbstorganisation hat auf Basis der Meldezahlen eine Modellrechnung durchgeführt und misst der Kontaktbeschränkung aber größere Auswirkungen zu.
Saying the Max Planck Institute for Dynamic and Self-Organization also made a model out of the reported numbers, but they found out that the social isolation had bigger outcomes than the Robert Koch Institute said.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, people are not agreeing with one another, but it's kind of funny because the Robert Koch Institute, as I said, they are Germany's
They're like the John Hopkins in the United States.
Yeah, but they're really big. I mean, they're the first one in Germany, and I'm not sure if John Hopkins is the first for research in the US, but I do know that Koch, because Koch is the one who started doing it. That's why it's called after him. Anyway, not interesting. So I'm going to... Links will be provided, good people. Links will be provided. The Luxemburger Tageblatt reports that Sweden's relaxed strategy on COVID-19 seems to work. Despite minimal measures, the situation seems to be clearly calming down at the moment.
As confirmed by the Robert Koch Institute.
Which is confirmed by the Robert Koch Institute, yes. A huge field hospital that was set up near Stockholm remains closed due to lack of demand.
Fun fact, similar situation in Seattle, where an army hospital that was erected for normal cases like broken bones and emergency cases, heart attacks and so on, was also taken down because nobody was using it.
Yeah.
They didn't have a need for it.
Same is happening in New York, where the new hospital that was being built real fast and the hospital ship that the Navy brought there were both, well, it's good to have them. Rather to have them and not need them than need them and not have them, I guess.
Like in California.
Yeah.
Where they would have needed it but didn't have it.
Basically. Koch's postulates are the models for disease transmission. Yes, thank you, Leprechaun. So, Robert Koch, isn't this something you're educated in yourself, Ludicrous? I thought I heard something like that. I mean, I asked you once, and I think it was this, but now, obviously, me being me, I'm not sure anymore. Okay, the number of deaths in Sweden isn't that important because, let's be honest, tomorrow the number might be different again. But yeah, it's not as high, considering the fact that people are still free to walk. A direct comparison with the UK with lockdown and Sweden without lockdown shows that the two countries are almost identical in terms of case numbers and deaths per population. Now there are obviously also a few differences. Yeah, biological science, yeah. Now, you're not a virologist, but I assume that you know a little bit about it. Am I right in assuming that, Ludicrous? Anyway, so yeah, obviously the UK and Sweden have different populations and a different population density. But even if we look at dense parts of Sweden, we don't see an extreme explosion of illness. So yeah, there is that. A letter to the New England Journal of Medicine reports that in a study of pregnant women, 88 of the test positive women showed no symptoms. It's a very high number, but one that is consistent with earlier reports from China and Iceland. I mean, 88% of the people are asymptomatic. They have the disease, but they have no problem. And yet still we only talk about the people that are measured, the ones that we know are infected, the ones that we know are in the hospital. Yeah, I'm sorry, but if we are going to take the worst cases of something and then base our total number on the worst people, then, yeah, we can never say something honest, because this is not what we do with the common flu. With the common flu, we recognize that if the flu happens in the Netherlands, everyone in the Netherlands has the flu. Even though not everyone in the Netherlands goes to the doctor, because most people with the flu just walk it off. And yes, women most infected. Ooh, Ludicrous worked in Switzerland. How is your German, Ludicrous? Am I going further with this one? Yeah, no, you know what? I'm going to call it quits because I think the general jest is there. Now, don't get me wrong, people. I'm not here telling you to ignore COVID. Just like I wouldn't tell you to ignore the flu. Obviously, be careful. But certain countries you have to be extra careful because if you don't, the government will bill you and send you fines and not quite sure what they're doing. What are they doing in Switzerland?
Well, groups larger than I believe it's 6 people at once, and you get fined 500 Swiss francs.
Yeah, and as you typed, 5,000 euros or 6 months in Italy. Now in the Netherlands, I haven't really noticed that much. I mean, I remember that a few days ago I was outside together with a mate of mine, and the police came and told us that we have to split up. This mate of mine lives in my house for the time being. So I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, not going to happen. I mean, if he's infected, then I'm infected as well, because we live in the same bloody house.
I have just this image in my mind.
No,
You walking with your wife and your mother-in-law. Police comes and tells you you have to split up.
Yeah.
Congratulations for the divorce induced by the police. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
And indeed, Renovatio, in the Philippines, they shoot you. I think I'm not quite sure which country it was, but I think it was Nigeria or something. They have curfews, and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday the women can get out. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday the men can get out, but only in the evening. As if that makes any difference. I mean, I had a discussion. Well, discussion is a big word, with someone on a meme, and they showed a meme of the shop where you can go, but then you have to stay 1.5 meters apart, and then they showed a picture of a golf course where you're probably alone and the nearest person is several yards away from you, and you're not allowed to go because. And then the response was, yeah, but obviously you're not allowed to go to the golf course because that's non-essential. And I'm like, wait a second. If the argument is 1.5 meter, it doesn't matter what I do as long as I adhere to the 1.5 meter. But apparently, adhering to the 1.5 meter isn't good enough. I'm still being told not to go to the golf course or go to the beach or go to the park or whatever. Wait a second.
Didn't they in the United Kingdom say that people are no longer allowed to go to the park and bath in the sun, even though they have a 2-meter distance to each other because of
apparently, yeah.
not working?
Yeah, I think Sargon had a video on that as well. People being told to go home because there's a disease going on. Yeah, but wait a second. We are social distancing, right? And the funny thing is, I've seen Sargon do a video about that, but I also seen videos about people standing, dancing in the street, still social distancing themselves, don't get me wrong, and apparently that's okay. So if that is okay, but sitting in the park isn't okay, explain that to me. Is the 1.5 meter, 2 meter rule, is it bogus? Because if it's bogus, I can understand why you say, oh, don't go outside. But if it's bogus, then why enforce it? And if it's not bogus, then why not let people go outside but adhere to that 1.5 meter, 2 meter, whatever rule? But it's all about authority. It's all about totalitarianism. People, we are losing our freedoms hand over foot. And the question is how fast we will get them back.
Very slowly.
Very slowly indeed, probably, yeah. Anyway, I'm now showing you people lovely rabbits. Because
Bunnies.
let's be honest, how nice is that? Why did we stop all the fencing competitions? Um, aren't the people fencing usually wearing protective clothing?
Well, because it's martial arts, and because martial arts can be used against those taking all the freedom from us. It's the same reason why they disarmed Swiss soldiers. Because they could use the weapons for good.
But in all fairness, I agree with you, by the way, Michael. But in all fairness, Ludicrous, there are people dying because they are not getting their emergency medical treatment because people are advised not to go to the hospital. I'm not making that up. We can all become fat ninjas. Well, hey, listen, you don't want me to sit on you. That's all I'm saying. You don't want me to sit on you.
And he can sneak up very well too. Every time he goes into bio break, we can't hear him coming back. He's just suddenly appears on the stream again.
The power of... Oh, no, not going to tell you guys. I'm sorry. Well, pretty soon I hope to have a slightly better computer. So that might make it all a bit better again. We wear masks, we wear gloves, we keep distance. How long is an épée or a fencing sword? What is it, 1 meter? And then the
It's
length
long
of your
enough
arm?
that if two fencers use it to keep the social distance at the fence sword tip, that it is the distance is well enough.
But you try to stab the other guy with your fence short tip, so... But you got an outstretched hand and an outstretched blade. So I think it's about 2.5 or 1.5 meters, surely. Surely 1.5 meters.
Should be enough.
But yeah, you shouldn't worry too much, people. It's not as if they're taking away your rights. Oh, they are. Ah, never mind then. I got a pair of Sai today. No, I don't like the Sai. I like a sword better, but in all fairness, if I'm going to say what melee weapon tickles me fancy, I'm going to say the axe.
Nah, axe is too short. Better take a halberd, then you can keep your social distancing in place.
An axe too short? You've never seen a Dane axe, have you?
What?
A Dane axe.
I
Oh, you've
don't
never
know
seen,
what it is.
You've never seen a Dane. Okay, let me let me hijack the stream. Okay, let me see. There you go. Dane axe. Oops, what was that? I don't know. Okay.
These knocks usually are the death knocking at your door.
Yeah, well. Okay.
Send him to me. He's late for a few years now.
Well, that knocks. I don't think I have the power to send them to you, mate. Anyway, this is a Dane axe. And you have to watch on the stream, by the way. So
Dane axe! Ah! Oh,
yes.
sorry, I
Dane.
misunderstood and was completely somewhere else.
It's a two-handed battle axe. Well, it's not really. Well, it is a battle axe, but yeah. And it usually has a staff of 1 meter 80 to a little bit more. It's I would say it's a little bit more effective than a halberd, though halberds are pretty effective too. Fair is fair. But yeah, Dane axes are they are a lot faster than a halberd, because halberds are far heavier. They're far top heavier than a Dane axe. A Dane axe isn't that top heavy, even though it is top heavy, obviously. But the axe itself isn't that.
Yeah, you have other attack angles, yeah.
I'm sorry, Green Badger. We're talking melee weapons, not ranged. 250 meters. I don't really reach that. Well, my longbow does reach that, but yeah, my aim would be. I'm still pretty accurate at 40 meters, but beyond that, not so much. Then again, I haven't I haven't shot my bow for a very long time. These are Dane axes. And, well, large stick, relatively small axe head. This basically means that once you get hit by him, it cracks. Anyway, so far the Dane axe, back to the lovely rabbits. Come here, rabbit. There you go. And no, not Dane axe. Shield and spear is the ultimate weapon. It's a great combo. The spear is a great weapon. Not even sure if I would use a spear with a shield, but you can, that's for sure. Yeah. Actually, what a lot of people seem to have forgotten, or rather, when we play games and when we watch movies, everyone fights with swords. But by far the most used weapon in the history of men is the spear. I've seen a video today of a seagull eating a bunny. Yeah, I can understand why that would be disturbing. Renovacio, Modwayne, you should do a Dane X tutorial entitled How to Greet a Feminist While Maintaining Social Distance.
I want to see that too.
Now, I have to admit, the Dane X I have is a little bit top heavy. A mate of mine made it. He was a smith. Unfortunately, he died. And the blade is a little bit too thick. So I still need to grind it down to size. But yeah, it has a shaft which is roughly as big as I am. So 180 plus it used to be a friend of mine who actually fought with it. And I've seen him... obviously this was a controlled test. I seen him split a Viking shield in half. And that's quite a skill, considering Viking shields are interlocked pieces of wood. And they're not only interlocked horizontally, no, they're interlocked horizontally, and then there's a layer vertically, and then there's a layer horizontally, and then there's a layer vertically, to prevent splitting the shield. And he split the shield. Dane axes are rather impressive weapons. Anyway, so yeah, no, I'm not going to try to tell a feminist that they should keep distance with a Dane axe. It's tempting, but too dangerous. And yes, the spear was the workhorse of the battlefield. And after a while, they stopped using the spear. So they started using the pike. What is the spike? What is the pike? Well, the pike is a spearhead with a very long shaft. It was amazing. It's a completely new weapon. What did you do? Well, you see that spear over there? Yeah. We took away the shaft and we replaced it with a shaft 3 times its length. Okay. It worked. And then you get things like the Macedonians. They had like a phalanx. It's called different. I can't remember the name of it. But they had a phalanx built out of pikes. Which was a very interesting attacking thingy. But at the same time, if it got flanked, they were dead. Because you can't turn the phalanx fast enough. Anyway, history and all that. Still an interesting topic, but... Michael, since I've got you with me now, anything interesting you want to continue talking about, or should we call it quits because we're close to the 2-hour marker anyway?
Well, I could mention those cases who were locked away in a sanitary because they spoke out against the measures against Corona.
Yeah, go on.
Well, yeah, let me get the reports up. It was from yesterday. There we go. It's in the Discord server, UK column link.
Okay, 1 sec. Because then I'll do... Where did you put... Oh, you send it to me again?
No, in the Discord server. In your server, I mean. It's on Tuesday,
Where are you? On Tuesday.
April 14th.
Oh, you sent it some time ago.
Yeah, it's the link with the ukcolumn.org article, Coronavirus Lockdown German Lawyer Detained.
Okay. Okay. Clickety click. Cluckety cluck. And super de poop. There you go. And now the people can see what you're talking about.
Okay, the title is Coronavirus Lockdown German Lawyer Detained for Opposition. A large number of well-established doctors and lawyers in the German-speaking countries have questioned the constitutionality of their government's stringent confinement measures, which are commonly being referred to by the English loanword "der shutdown," as there is no precedent for what to call the situation in German. These measures have begun to be challenged openly on the streets of Berlin. There are demonstrations going on there. The medical and legal dissidents number in the dozens. Underestimated number. None, however, has paid such a price for freedom of speech as the German medical lawyer Beate Bahner, who has been committed to a
Psychiatric?
institution for publicly disagreeing with the measures and policies followed by the German government. That's actually not so true. She actually sued Germany at the Bundesverfassungsgericht, at the Constitutional Court of Germany, and lost her case. After that, she said she no longer wants to be a lawyer in the country, want to return her Zulassung.
Diploma?
No, not a diploma. She no longer wanted to be a barista, but just a legal thingy there. Anyway, and then the next day, police knocked on her door and carried her off to the psychiatric institution or mental health clinic.
Ah,
And she's been locked away for that.
because she doesn't want to conform to the interesting stories that the German government is pushing on its people.
Exactly.
It's not that she
And-
disagrees, it's that she doesn't say yes, sir.
Yeah, because she spoke out against it and called for civil disobedience, which is a constitutional right in Germany. Grundgesetz, der Constitution, Article 20, paragraph 4. Then the next case, it's German news, unfortunately, Swiss German news.
I don't see where you are in your article, though.
That article already stated the most interesting thing. They're just repeating what I just paraphrased. But there's another case. It's in the next article. A Swiss general practitioner who also spoke out against the COVID things, essentially saying what you just said in the stream, Modwin, has also been committed. Also
That
for
one-
speaking
that-
out
that one
against the
is-
measurements.
That one is in German.
Yeah,
I've
it's
half
the
Corona skepticism.
Med Inside link.
Yeah. I've got that one. People can see it. I will link them to the text as well, so people can check them
Then-
out later if they want to. But yeah, go on then.
Yeah, and that doctor also was committed, as said, because he spoke out against the measurements and had the audacity to say that these numbers aren't as how can I phrase it without me being deported? He was against the public opinion. And so the police did what they do over here. They say, oh, he's been a danger to himself and others, and locked him away into a clinic where he is since Tuesday.
Well, it's kind of funny because what we're seeing in Europe is we're seeing a limiting on social freedoms, so to speak, worse than we had during the Second World War. And that is interesting. Because even during the occupation during the Second World War, and don't let me make it sound like it wasn't bad that they did that, because obviously there was a war going on and blah 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 blah. It was terrible. But in certain ways, we are now being restricted more than a lot of civilians were during the lull at the Second World War. Not during the fighting times, but I mean, there weren't constant fighting times in Europe.
Yeah, and it's also become worse than behind the Iron Curtain. Because if you remember the German Democratic Republic, where everybody was spying on each other, everybody could have been a member of the
Stasi.
Yeah, and no freedoms. And if you mentioned another opinion than what the state has mentioned, well, have a fun journey to the prisons and gulags and so on. We are at the exact same place in history again. You can't speak out publicly what you want. Hate speech laws, and especially not against Corona, and
Well,
they destroy you.
It's what Green Badger said. So indeed, Green Badger. So disagree with the party line, so you must be insane. Where have we seen this before?
Exactly. That's the point.
But it's not just happening in Germany, let's be honest. This is happening just about everywhere in the Western world. It's I'm going back to the bunnies, by the way. Bunnies are way much... It's more relaxing to the eyes, let's be honest.
And they are not as aggregating as the news.
No, but in all fairness, one of the reasons that I'm not really making videos at the moment is this whole Corona thing is pissing me off no end. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Corona is a hoax or it's fake. Yeah, people die from Corona. Yeah, it's a bad thing. But the stories that are being told, the news, it's so one-sided and so incorrect. It's almost as if there is no other news and you're not to challenge this.
By the way, other news. Did you hear that the forest in Chernobyl has been burning?
Yes. And now obviously people are very afraid because the fire may reach... Yeah.
No, not the fire may not reach the sarcophagus, but the particles in the soil were grown into the trees and so on, and by them burning away, they are being carried. Well, they have increased radioactive measurements up until Kiev.
Yeah, but not by a lot. People are being made afraid again.
It's just 100 nanosievert more. It's nothing to be worried about. But
yeah, it's going to the doctor and getting an X-ray. No, wait a second.
Actually, less.
It's way less than that.
I traveled to Amsterdam in November, and I had my Geiger counters in my backpack.
Oh, you went by plane?
Please?
Did you go by plane?
Yeah.
Oh, then you scored higher.
Yeah, most definitely. It was great. If you have the chance, always take a Geiger counter with you in your hand luggage. I had about 4 times normal background radiation in the airplane, but the 3D scanners, as they call it,
they're even higher.
Otherwise known as CAT scans for the luggage and the body scanner, they put so high numbers on the Geiger counters. I can send you the link after the stream. I don't want to dox myself, but I made a blog entry with that. It was...
You wanted to make videos yourself, so I'm going to leave that one for yourself.
Oh no need for that. I have the blog entry already.
Okay.
That's not that much of interest for others.
Okay. And Dick, you're correct. The material is getting airborne, but it's so little, it's hardly worth mentioning. But it's all about, are you scared yet? That's really it. And the most polluted radioactive area in Chernobyl is the
scrapyard.
No, it's the cellar of the hospital where the men were brought
to
be treated, because they cut off their uniforms and they threw them all together in a pile in the cellar. That's the most radioactive part of the whole area.
And there are interesting videos of YouTube. One went in there, taking measurements, and it's so radioactive in that cellar that you actually can see the Cherenkov radiation, which is the blue shiny water.
Yeah. But the rest of Chernobyl, most of the rest of Chernobyl scores pretty low. There are actually people living there. And they are living a normal life. They don't have extra fingers or cancer or whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, but the wildlife has, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah. But then in all fairness, if we look at wildlife, for example, I'm now showing these nice little bunnies. A bunny in the wild doesn't get older than roughly 2 to 3 years old. Why? Because a lot of them develop cancer. Now they have lots of health issues, don't get me wrong. The same is true for rats, the same is true for most small rodents die of cancer. Even though they were never close to Chernobyl, they probably would have died of cancer anyway. The bigger animals, wolves and such, they, yeah. It's kind of funny because small animals get sick. Because they get sick, they can be caught by the eaters of weak animals. And for example, wolves. But yeah, wolves are basically the alpha in the area, so they don't die of anything but old age and illnesses. Where rabbits get eaten, so we don't realize that they are cancer-ridden or are affected by other diseases. Anyway, I just remembered there is still radioactive wild boars in Sweden from the Chernobyl accident. I'm 100% willing to believe that. But yeah, the whole Chernobyl thing, oh man, oh, be afraid because the forest is burning and radioactivity is being transported all the way to Kiev and probably further. Yeah, it is, but it's so very little.
Yeah, but then again, when Chernobyl happened in 1986, it kind of was a similar situation. I remember myself being young back then. We weren't allowed to play outside. We didn't have a curfew. We didn't have social isolation. We were just not allowed playing outside. And as a kid, you don't understand why. And I should explain, I live in the fallout area. We had fallout short before the radiation stopped and turned away from France.
Yeah, me too. The Netherlands was part of the fallout area too.
Yeah, but we got it pretty much from the first wave, and we weren't allowed to go out. And now with the COVID, you should stay at home. You shouldn't go out. Many areas you mustn't go out.
Be afraid.
But one has been a danger, and the other might be a danger.
In all fairness, the whole Chernobyl thing wasn't really a big deal either. But background radiation was 100% higher. Now, what's normal background radiation again?
Depends where you are.
Yeah, but it's usually...
Well, my Amsterdam readings were about... let me check it. I can find it very fast in the blog. There we are. Where is it? Damn it. 200 nanosieverts. So, no, 112 nanosieverts in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And in Switzerland, about 120 nanosieverts.
Which is nothing. I mean, it's very little. Double that is still not an issue.
Well, we had a little more radiation here. We also had the alpha emitters, which is not just the gamma emitters of the background radiation. We actually had plutonium and cesium on our ground, and we had to wait until the half-life of that was over.
That is slightly more interesting, though the word is slightly. I mean, as long as you don't ingest it, it's not really an issue either.
Yeah, and I still walked around in the rain when the whole shit came down.
Yeah.
Question is, when will I develop symptoms? Because I'm kind of sick person, but I don't have cancer yet.
But that's the thing. We are constantly that's what's the saying again? It's a political saying. Never let Never let a tragedy go to waste.
Never let a crisis go to waste.
Well, fair enough.
But yeah.
Crisis is a better word. But that's the whole thing. We're being scared. We're being feared. Project Fear is a real thing. It's been around for as long as people can remember. But yeah, people don't seem to realize that this is constantly happening. Oh, you have to be afraid of this. You have to be afraid of that. Okay, yeah. Anyway, we are now close to 2 hours. And unless people want something to add to the great fun story of being scared, as long as you don't breathe it in, it is something you can mitigate. No, I mean, in all fairness, even if you breathe it in, it has to be really, really problematic for you to get sick from it. It's really amazing how much radioactivity we can handle compared to background radiation. Anyway, sleep well, Paolo. We're going to call it quits soon anyway. And again, people, next time when I'm going live, it'll probably be around 8 o'clock. I'm not sure if it's going to be next Wednesday or the Wednesday beyond that. But yeah.
And you leave it as a surprise if it's going to be 8 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, Universal Time, or Central European.
Central European. Just about everyone here is Central European.
Except John. He's British.
Well, all right then. Sorry, John. No, but yeah, 8 o'clock Central European will most likely be my new time frame. Sleep well, everyone. Thank you for coming. Michael, do you want to have any last words?
Good night, everyone.
And I hope to see you all next time.